I'm Les Thompson, and over the coming months I'm going to be taking you around the amazing world of Sonubaits. I'll be showing you how to mix, blend, soak and prep using all of our classic mixes like match method mix, F1 and Super Crush. Whilst at the same time I'm going to be keeping up to date with all things new like our chocolate orange, chunky fish and super feeder. From pellets to wafters, from my bait room to the bank, I'll be showing you how to get the best from the Sonubaits range. So welcome to the Ministry of Bait. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Ministry of Bait, and welcome to my bait room. Makes me feel just like the Mary Berry of the bait world, but I'm just a little bit less furry. In this episode we're going to be looking at a brand new product that all the Sonu team is really excited about. A product aimed at eliminating a problem that lots of anglers have struggled with over the years: expander pellets. Always looking for a good batch, when to pump them, how to prepare them, does that batch split, can they leave them in water, the hassle of when you're shipping out that they drop off if you're chasing that last minute fish, everything and all the little problems that used to happen with expander pellets the Sonu team have tried to eliminate, and it was the legend that was Des Ship that came up with the idea. So let me introduce you to the Pro Expander pellets. There they are, beauties. And like I say, Des, like lots of us, had just got frustrated over the years of just keep constantly trying to find a pellet that worked, then a batch would change. We've all wanted that last minute fish, there's a bit more time, we've shipped out really quick, but as we've lifted it up to lower the pellet in, the pellet's gone and we've got to come back, reload, all out, we've missed another chance of a fish. I found a real high quality expander pellet that would take Desi's special ingredient. We would tell you what that ingredient is, but it's like Colonel Sanders' KFC recipe. Everybody loves it, but no one really knows what it is. Now this is the real bonus and the real plus to using these pellets. You don't actually need a pump. You don't need a pump. All those times are sat there on the bank, gone. Are they ever going to leave them in water? Are they going to be ready in time? When I'm on a match I see lots and lots of anglers racing and preparing bait. I prefer to prepare mine at home, but they're pumping away, and that's when you can make your mistakes. These are idiot proof. So basically these, well actually I quite like that one. It's quite kinky. So what I'll do now, I'll show you just how complicated these pellets are to prepare. So I've got my monster pellet wetter. Take the basket off the pellet wetter, in it goes, and I'm going to just put in enough pellets that I'd want for a session. Normally I have to put extra pellets in because I've always got a travelling partner that wants some of my pellets, so I'll pretend he's with me here today. A few sixes, in we go. Just zip up basket, and then all we're going to do is we're going to add some quality H2O, and we're just going to put enough in just make sure they're all level, just to cover those pellets over. So the pellets are in, they're all covered. That's it, done. What I'm going to do then, I'm just going to take that, I'm going to put that in my fridge, because I always stick my bait in the fridge, but you could just leave it on the side. And what's going to happen, all those pellets are going to take off just that level amount of water, they're going to expand, they're going to get to the size that you want, they're going to be perfect, they're going to remain and keep all their integrity, and they'll be perfect and ready to fish. Right, I'm going to send these babies to the fridge purely because I like preparing my expanders the night before. But the team at Sonu did some tests and they found that around about 2 hours gives you an absolutely perfect expander. So if you were to plan your journey to your time of arrival, your setting up, everything, if it's around about 2 hours, you could do them on the morning before you actually set out for your day's fishing. And in true Blue Peter fashion, if you're a fan of that from the 80s, we've got some we made earlier. And here they are, straight out. All the water's gone. And if you want to zoom in there, I'd look at those. Look at those beauties. Look at that. Nice, solid consistency. They're going to take a hook. They're going to stay on. You're going to be able to ship them, lift and drop. And they're a real good quality expander, real strong smell of fish meal. And the most important thing, like we said before, and here's the test, every one will sink. Look at that. I mean, that is sinkage of Titanic proportions. I mean, that's just missing Kate Winslet, Leo and a Celine Dion song. Right then, we're going to pack all these expanders away. I'm going to grab some Pro Feed pellets. We're going to head down to Evesham to Manor Farm Leisure Fishery, hopefully get amongst some fish. Right then, we've arrived at Manor Farm Fisheries in Evesham, well just outside Evesham. It's an unseasonably still quite cold spring day, early April. But it is quite windy and we don't want to sit anywhere uncomfortable and get blown off the lake. Especially I want to keep Adam nice and warm and I want to stay comfortable myself because I'm getting a little bit older. I'm going to have a little walk around. I'm going to pick me a peg.
A flyer.
A flyer. Why would you want to sit on a bad peg if you're pledge fishing? So hopefully get amongst a few of the resident big carp and F1s would be absolutely perfect to showcase Pro Feed and Pro Expanders. So we're just going to have a quick walk around now and choose a peg. Right then, we've arrived on peg 4 we have plumbed for on Windmill Lake. You're warm, Adam?
No.
No, I'm reasonably warm. We're out the wind. There's that breeze there, which doesn't look too bad. It's actually horrendous over the rest of the venue. So we've gone for 4 on Windmill. I've been told there is a few fish in the area, so hopefully she'll catch some fish, but it's more about the bait. So fresh from the fridge, like we did back in the bait room, are our Pro Expanders. And there they are, look, overnight, soaked up, just got rid of the last bit of water off them. There they are. And like we said, every one of them will sink. So they've been in the fridge all night. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready for the acid test? How many, if any float, how many fivers?
3.
3. You ready?
You beauty.
Every one a sinker, as promised. Hey, as promised, perfect. But like I say, that look, every single one of them, they've still got strung. They're ready. All the integrity of the pellets is still there. They're not splitting, and they've just been soaked all overnight, left in the fridge. Everyone ready to use. Like we did say, if you wanted to do them first thing of the morning, it could be just around about 2 hours. So if you're off to fish a match or just cater your journey, you're setting up time, just think about the amount of time it's going to take you. Just plan that into what you want to do. Sort your bait on the morning. They'll be absolutely bob on for when you get to your peg. So looking forward to catching a few of them. I mean, Jesus, the smell of fish meal on them is something else, to be fair, and that's what you want with a good quality expander as well, because that's going to drag fish and it's going to help catch your fish. I mean, they're proper. Right, so that's the expanders all taken care of, and like I said in the bait room, we're going to be using them with Pro Feed pellets. There they are, little beauties. 4 mils and 6 mils I've got with me. I'll be using the 4 mils mainly on the hook because on this peg I know it's around about 5 foot deep, something like that. So getting into early spring, I know the hard pellets work well on this venue, and when I fish expanders, I like to fish them and give myself a double option. I like to fish an expander over the top or a hard pellet over the top, but we'll go more into that as we move forward. So it's just about preparing these pellets. Like I say, high quality fish meal, feed pellet, cranberry fish meal, just exactly what you want for dragging fish into your peg really, and dead simple to prepare. It's just big bowl job. See lots of anglers messing around with small tubs and things like that. I prefer to do things in a bigger bowl, give you a much easier workspace to work in, proper get your hands in, give everything a good coat. And I want to use some clear sinking pellet oil. This is the squid flavour, so a little bit more fish meal but not too much, and you don't want massive amounts, just enough to coat the pellet. And I must stress this, you don't want to look like you've just changed the oil on your car, anything like that. You just want to put a little bit on because it does go a long way. So it's just a couple of drops, and then just gently just start coating the pellets up. Now again, I'm always one to prepare on my fish matches all the time, so I like to prepare bait first when I get to my peg. So my gear's done, bang, straight on the bait. So don't go out plumbing up and everything. I want my bait ready for when I start the match, and I want this oil to dry on these pellets. This one's a touch more, not too much. And this is just going to help every single one of these pellets get straight down to the bottom like a brick. Concentrate the fish on the bottom where they're going to be easy to catch. That is exactly what I want. It's early springtime, I'm not chasing fish in shallow water, I want fish down. And again, it'll give me that double option where I can fish a hard 4, a hard 6 and my pro expanders. Hopefully put some fish in the net. So we'll see now what this does to make these sink. So it just breaks that surface water, everyone sinks straight away. So there you go, they're all nicely coated. And like I said before, we're just going to let them dry. I mean, if you're looking at those pellets now, virtually every one of those is a uniform size. So throughout the day, if I want to start pinging pellets and things like that, they're going to travel all through the air at the same distance. Sometimes you can get some pellets that are all shapes and sizes, and as soon as you pull back a catapult, they're off in all sorts of directions, and you don't want that because you want to concentrate your feed. So these are now going to be left to dry. There's a couple of other little things I do when I'm doing my pellet fishing just to get me some extra fish. And the one thing that you can do with pro feed pellets is to soak some 4s and some of the 6s feeds just slightly, so they take on enough water so that I can actually hook those as well, so they become like a softer, well, like I say, they're not an expander, but they're the softened up feed. You know, if you can extend the options throughout the pellets that you're using. I ain't got massive amounts of bait today. The bait tray is just dead simple. It's pellets, it's expanders, but just by altering my feed pellet to convert it to a hooker as opposed to just hard pellet fishing, I've given myself another option to put another fish in the net. Right then, I've had a little plumb around, and it's around about top kit and 3 joints, so 5 or 6 metres. It just drops off on the ledge and it goes straight out pretty much as flat as right the way out. Then there's not much change in depth, just literally an inch. Basically just keeps drifting away. You always find a little bit of undulation, like a bowl, like a little bit of a dish, where the silt just moves away, and that's been created by fish coming in, grubbing around, eating, stirring up all that silt, and just so it's a little bit cleaner there. And that's the sort of area that I want to find, where it just drops away that little bit more and it's a little bit cleaner for me to work in, because it is actually quite silty. So when I've had a real good plumb around, so from 6 metres I've got 3 rigs that I can use across from 6 metres right the way out for the rest of my peg. And I'll just run you through my weapons of choice. First rig, dead simple, and fishing gets made complicated by anglers, so basically the more simply you keep it, the better. An F1 pellet 4x16s. I've got 6 foot of water. That is absolutely perfect. It's flat, it's not really towing, it's absolutely bob on. Wire stem, hollow bristle, going to give me great indication. I can dot it down, it'll be absolutely perfect. It'll just sit just above that surface film. Let me see all those little indications I want to get from the F1s and resident carp. Like I say, 4x16's body, and it's a dead simple shotting pattern. It's 013 line, power line, so that's quite subtle. I've got a bulk of 8s with a little 10 above, which allows me to trim it down. I can move that underneath the float if I want, just trims that rig right in. 2 9s down to an 011 bottom, and I've got an 18s 434 on. Perfect little hook for pellet fishing. That's the one rig. The other rig that I'll switch to, because I've given myself the option to fish hard pellets and expanders over the same line, which is what I like to do generally these days anyway, not like soak all my feed up. There is place for that with micros and fours in winter, but we're coming into spring, I can be more aggressive, so the harder fours are what I'm after. And I've got same main lines, 013, 011, exactly the same float. This shotting pattern is a little bit different. I have a bulk of stots as opposed to shot on the other rig, right on top of a 6-inch hook length with an 18s KKM Teflon coated, razor sharp. These are a little band on there which is going to allow me just to band up a 6 or a 4 if I want to fish a hard pellet over that, just to keep, I mean, it could be the hard pellet is actually better than the expander today, who knows, but it gives me an option to keep fish coming. And then I have another rig where I always like to just search through the water. Sometimes they start to move about, and on days where you need to find a bite. This one is the F1 maggot carbon stem, which allows it to fall a little bit slower. We've got the hollow tip again, but this time shots all strung out, exactly the same main line, so the rigs are pretty much identical. The only difference is this one is a carbon stem, so I'm going to get a little bit slower fall as opposed to the steadiness of the wire stem, which is going to swing right round and give me absolute control when I want to lower the rig in. So when I've got a lot of fish in the area and I'm putting the rig in, I can just get the rig up, I've got ultimate control and the rig's working straight away. That's why I use the wire one as opposed to that one for falling through. So that's the weapons of choice. Let's get some expanders on, fill the pot up and catch some fish. Right then, the thing I get asked quite a lot is how do I actually start off the peg? And for me, at this time of year, I see lots of anglers and especially pleasure anglers, they'll get a pot and they'll just load it up and load it up and load it up and I mean, there's a hell of a lot of bait just gone in that pot. And for me, when it's just coming out of winter into early spring, that's not right. So for me, I like to feel my way into the peg. So as opposed to the big pot, which lots of anglers always seem to pick up straight away, even though they only put little bits in, sometimes, so they say, I see lots that go out and pour and pour and pour and pour. I like to be able to regulate my feed with a smaller pot, and there's, you know, still a decent quantity of pellet there to kick a peg off. And that's exactly what I want to do, and I want to feel my way into the peg and work with the bites. If I feel like it needs another one straight away, I can come straight back and put another one in, but at least I haven't given too much at the start, blown the peg, or gone the other way and got too many fish there, so I end up getting ridiculous amounts of liners, foul looking fish, and then I've got another problem to sort out. So for me, the ideal thing to do this time of year is to start with just not quite full, just underneath, full sort of that size cas pot, just to kick it off. I'll go out, just quietly drop it in, and that'll kick my peg off. So that's enough talking, let's catch some fish. One thing I did mention back in the bait room about a quality that these Pro expanders have got is that they are really, really strong expanders to ship through the water. They're still light, even though they sink really quick. You don't have to pump them, but as opposed to other expanders that I've used over the years, when you want to ship out at speeds, you've got to be a little bit mindful that your pellet isn't going to fall off. And in the recent weeks when I've been fishing with these expanders, literally you haven't got to be careful at all. I mean, that's 13 meters. I've fished them at all sorts of lengths. I mean, that's 13. That pellet was still on. I'll ship it straight back. There we go. And he's still there, soft as you like. So that's gone 26. Let's go see if we can catch a fish on it. And that makes a big difference, especially for me in matches. And that pellet's still on there, so that's 3 times that's gone out, back, out again. That pellet's still on. And for me, when I'm catching fish, and it's more of a fish race, which F1 fishing can be, that's a massive advantage, especially later on in a match. Just missed the bite. Later on in a match, when I want to chase those last minute fish and there's fish there and I want to get back in quickly. Numerous times over years I've done it, and I'm sure the people have. Well, I know they have. We've all been in that situation that you ship out, you go to lower it in, you try to get out quick, and the pellet's gone, so you've got to come back, you're about to put another one in, all out, and that's it. So you've missed out on another fish. Different when you're fishing banded pellets and things like that, but it's another advantage that these expanders give you. And that, to me, is another big reason why they are awesome pellets. There's another one. All just by dripping through the cab pot, just a few 4mm Pro Feed with a 4mm Pro Expander on the hook. And again, that time it's just working that pellet. It's not like when you're fishing maggots or when you're fishing bits of worms, things that can move. You need to put a little bit of work in, just a little lift, a drop, or a little drag. Not massive amounts of movement, but just enough just to induce a bite. There's another one. It's been a nice start really. Like I say, we kicked it off with a little cab pot, that Dura-10 streaming out. And there quite a few early F1s and a decent carp. There's a little F1. But no, like I say, we caught some little run of early F1s, some carp. All like expanders, alternating between 4s and 6s, just to keep fish ticking over. I'm going to have a switch in a moment, switch over to the hard pellet rig and have a look and then start pinging, because I feel like they want a little bit more bait, and I don't want to go all gun-go and put a big pot of bait in. What I'm going to do is just show you a few little tips and tricks where you can keep bites coming into your, and keep fish coming into the peg without having to panic and grab that big pot. So I'm going to switch over to the hard pellet rig now, see if I can pick up a few fish on that, because they have started to get a little bit iffy. Well, we've just had a real great quick burst of fish there, wonderful session, catching at 13 metres, and another line which I'd started at 6 metres. We started exactly the same way with that cad pot at the start with 4mm in, catching F1s, catching carp, catching on the expander rig 4s and 6 mils, and then switching and alternating to keep bites coming with the hard pellet rig. And that's one of the things with pellets, especially with F1s and well, more so F1s than carp. They soon get used to the little things that you do in that familiar pattern. If it's in the water, the same amount of pellets, the same amount, they soon think and start to get wise and get very wary. Even though they're still in your peg, the bites slow down. So by alternating your hook baits, alternating rigs, and changing the way you feed, like I said about pinging, if you start pinging some pellets to introduce a bit more food into the peg, it's not just the food that you're giving them a trigger of noise. And farm fed fish that have been put into these lakes and all fisheries, they respond to that clatter of that pellet. They remember that instinct that from when they were being fed, right from when they first popped out of the shell basically. So that long line, as soon as I started to ping it, a few more fish came back into the peg. Then that started to slow down. We altered it again. I started to sprinkle a few more pellets out the pot to make a more of a clatter, more concentrated. A few more fish came back then. So just alternating between the two. That's one of the best bits of advice I can give you before you actually pick up the big pot and give it a dump, because a lot of the time there's still fish there to be had, just alternating and mixing about, chopping and changing. Well, there we go. Look at these beauties. A few F1s, carp, odd token skimmer, all kind of expanders, and an odd one on the hard pellet. A wonderful day down at Manor Farm with a few tips thrown in between. Fantastic. Right, I'm going to get these back and I'll see you next time on the Ministry of Bait.